Hello everyone. If you've been watching my videos the last couple weeks, you've seen me set up this thing from start to finish, the 100-gallon shrimp pond. This one has blue jellies. And let's go take a look at my other one, and I'll talk about why I do these shrimp ponds and how I'm going to end up using them. And let's see what my Bloody Mary one looks like. And it has now been 6 months. So let's see what it looks like after 6 months after setting it up. And here's the Bloody Mary one, set up exactly 6 months ago. Now you can see it's not the same. And there's even a new thing here since the last time I talked about this shrimp pond. But look at how many shrimp we've got here. This thing is doing so good. Alright, so let's go swimming with the shrimp here. See if we can get a shrimp eye view of this 100-gallon Bloody Mary shrimp pond. Oh, and here we go, underwater. So, as you can see, the moss is doing really good. Alright, so there we are. Look at all the little tiny baby shrimps. Of course, I have a special cover thing for my phone, so the image isn't the most clear, but it is looking pretty good. So, why do I do these 100-gallon stock tank shrimp ponds? Well, the first and main reason I do these stock tank ponds is for the easy space. Look at all this space I get. Look at all the surface area for biofilm to grow on the walls. It's tall, which necessarily isn't such a good thing for shrimp, but it does work good because they enjoy these vertical walls for sure. And with all the space, I got all this space for not only for shrimp, but I can grow all these different kinds of plants. And I'm hoping to make plants a bigger part of my future here at Mark Shell Aquatics. And I really enjoy it. And you'll also notice in these stock tank ponds, I do not keep any plecos. It's just strictly shrimps and snails. So I like to have this great big huge body of water with just a bunch of little shrimp and however many snails are in here. I've actually done a pretty good job of removing snails, but there's still a lot in here, and I need a lot because I do feed more than the shrimp can handle, so that's why I end up having snails. If you have more snails than you want, the reason is you're overfeeding. And here's another thing to keep in mind. People always ask me what size tank is best for shrimp. Well, my answer to that is the biggest you can possibly get, either being able to afford or have the space for. Because the one thing shrimp like more than anything, shrimp like this way more than having perfect water. They like stable water. So, the better you can keep your water parameter stable, the better your shrimp are going to do. Well, a 100-gallon stock tank with just some shrimp and some snails in it, that is going to be pretty easy to keep stable. I don't throw any more food in here than I do like a 40-gallon tank. I don't put in, because this tank has no plecos, so it doesn't need a whole lot of food. It doesn't need a whole lot of water changes. I still do bi-weekly water changes, about 20%. But just take a look at these shrimp. Now, lately, since I pulled out a whole bunch of moss a little bit ago on my last update, and I've had a little bit of algae problems in the moss, as you can see here a little bit, but not a lot. I pull out what I can by hand and shoot the rest with peroxide. It needs to grow up a little bit more, and the moss will be free of algae. And well, frankly, another reason I have these stock tanks is, well, I have a whole bunch of tanks in my house, and it's always a ticking time bomb for one of them to start leaking, and that would not be good. So I figure the less tanks, I figure these stock tanks will last a lot longer than these cheap $1 per gallon tanks I use. And so I rest a little bit easier, knowing that these are less likely to leak. I did have a problem with the drain on these, but I've figured out a way to remedy that. So that is not really a problem anymore. And well, I had a pretty good idea with this one that it would work pretty good. And so I applied the same principles I used for all my other tanks on this first one that is now 6 months old. And it's this tank, this stock tank, this Bloody Mary shrimp pond is done so good from the very get-go. I just want to do another one. All right, and here we are. I did a calling here. I got my camera underneath the water in the case, and let me tell you, I was a nervous wreck leaving it in here doing a time lapse. And I decided to do a call, a shrimp calling, pulling out the bad shrimp and putting them in my Skittles tank. So if there was any one drawback to doing these stock tanks versus a tank is it's a lot harder to keep your shrimp lines clear or clean, you know, keep high quality shrimp up. But as you can see in the shrimp here, I do a pretty good job. I will have my office chair, I wheel over next to it, throw in an algae wafer like I did here, and sit there with the net. And as they appear, I get them. I look all along the sides, and usually I do it every couple weeks or so. And you know, every time I stop and take a look at it, I keep a net beside the pond. If I see one or two, I'll pull them out. It's just due diligence, being diligent, and not letting it get away from you. Because if you ended up letting lots of bad ones in here and letting them breed out, and you let the line slip away from you, it'd be super, super hard to get it back in order. So you do need to stay on top of it. And more important than that is you need to have a line. I wouldn't do this with a questionable line like green jades, where it's really hard to keep the top-notch shrimp. I wouldn't do it with a green jade line. I do it with lines that are really, really solid, that lines that I've had for years, and they're reliably good lines, like where there's not a whole bunch of calling, and the ones that are bad stand out. So generally speaking, these Bloody Marys, they're either pretty good or they're not good. So they're easy to find the bad ones, as they really stand out is what I'm saying. And they don't make that many bad ones. That's the best part of them, really. All right, let's take a look at them after calling some out. I really didn't get that many out because, like I said, I do a pretty good job staying on top of it. But look at all those shrimp. I'd say those are some pretty good Bloody Marys, if I don't say so myself. But these guys, like I said earlier, they just keep breeding and breeding and breeding. There's always buried ones. There's always little baby ones. And it's only 6 months old. Now, I did probably start off with I'd say I probably started off with about 30 or 40 shrimp. And then after about a month, I probably added about 100 more. So in about 6 months, I'd say this is pretty good. I mean, there's really no idea knowing how many I've got, because even with all those great big piles of shrimp, they're still everywhere in the tank. The walls of them, I mean, it's not like a tank where you put an algae wafer and every single one of them gather. You put an algae wafer in this pond, in the ponds, and you're only getting the ones that hang out at the bottom. The ones who are up on the other side of the tank, or the ones on the walls, they don't even know this is even here. They don't even make a trip for it. They just keep on doing their picking at the biofilm on the sides of the pond. But you can see here, man, just look at them. I'm so happy. I cannot believe how good this pond is doing. And I did this one, like I said, it done so good, and I said I'm gonna do another one. So that's why I started another one. And with my other best line as far as breeding consistently and good shrimp, it is the Bloody Marys. The Bloody Marys, and then my next one that I did is the blue jellies. So the Bloody Marys and blue jellies, I would say, are my top performing breeding lines as far as breeding out true, and those are the ones I've started off doing ponds with. And the biggest reason why I do these ponds is because I'm selling a lot of shrimp these days on my website, markshellaquatics.com. And with as many shrimp as I'm selling these days, I've always got to make more and more and more. And the plan is, I'm not going to sell out of these ponds, but I'm going to look at these ponds, these stock tank ponds, as my shrimp bank. So what that means, when I alternate, so I'll have multiple colonies of all my lines, and I sell out of a tank, When it gets low, then I just gotta wait for it to breed back out and I go to the next tank. Well, with the stock tank ponds, when the tank gets low, I can scoop out 200 or 300, sort them out, put the best ones in the tank in one of my colonies that's getting low, and boom, boom, boom. Not only will they bounce back quicker and I'll still rotate to the next tank, but then they will bounce back quicker because there's more shrimp in there. More shrimp make more shrimp quicker. So while I don't ever plan to sell directly out of these, they will be used to restock my own colony lines in my tanks. So that's how I plan to use them in the future. And that's how I plan to integrate these ponds into my Neocaridina shrimp breeding operation. And there you have it, the Bloody Mary 100-gallon stock tank pond. She is doing better than I could have ever hoped for. I've said that with every update I've given on this, and it just keeps on doing better and better. And look at these crypts. I forgot to talk about the crypts. These are Florida sunset crypts. And I think we're going to make these available on the website here pretty soon. So if you're interested in some really big Florida sunset crypts, you're probably going to need at least like a 75-gallon tank to put them in, because they are monsters. I mean, you probably put one in a 29 if it was like the centerpiece plant. But these things are awesome. Cryptowind dead eyes with a reddish tint on the back of the leaves. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed my Bloody Mary shrimp pond. Bye.